Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today. Is Biden dead? Probably not, but I thought it was a funny question to ask. We're going to start right there. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and the rest of the market, just as we do. Quick little update. So let's fire right into it. Okay, here we go. It appears to me that we are building an accumulation range. We're definitely in a trading range at the very least. Whether it's accumulation or distribution, we're going to have to wait. I was a little bit early to the gun on the last move, especially after I had like warned everybody to be cautious with profits. But nonetheless, that's okay. We make mistakes. We learn. We come back from it. I think we're going to form a trading range in the middle of the box here. If we don't, for some reason, if we break above and close down or not, we're going to know quite soon. But I suspect this is what we're going to get over the next 2 weeks. In the middle of the range, reaccumulation, and then up to 72,000 at the very least. That's the next two steps. I think we go to 72,000 at the very least. Again, the reason being there's just a massive amount of potential liquidations that are going to take place in that area. We've looked at this before, but here's Glassnode. Here you go. Somewhere upwards of like 20 to $30 billion of liquidations will take place, or approximately $72,000 on the short side. Again, it's not guaranteed that this is a reaccumulation range. There's still some things that come out of left field to confuse us. The markets are really good at doing this. It likes doing this, likes confusing us. Super fucking bullish way back here in September and October, all for good reason. But in this point here, we could easily see something that ends up becoming distribution. Just for example's sake, this could end up becoming distribution, but I think at the very least, we're coming back to the top of the box at 72 grand to wipe out all that liquidation. We could come all the way back down to 30 grand. Again, there's just a ton of liquidation potential down there too. And the markets like to get rid of that. You know, they were like, oh, hey, let's remove all the leverage positions. I heard a video of someone today were like, oh, well, there's no way to take out loans and buy Bitcoin. That's fucking incorrect. That's exactly what leverage is. Margin trading is basically a loan. So that's bullshit. But whatever, people like to make stuff up when they're... So there's a massive amount of liquidation that could take place here, somewhere around $30 billion to on the down near the $30,000 side. So just for fun, you could see something where we jump up into 72,000, wipe out all that short liquidation before actually coming down into spot sellers, basically bring us all the way back down to the bottom demand range of where the ETF started, forcing pressure on and stress into the ETF area before actually moving into that $120,000 area that we're looking for Bitcoin. So don't think that this is the most probable situation. Usually once the market cycle gets marked up, it likes to continue to be marked up. But there's a ton of leverage in the ecosystem here. You're talking about 30 to $40 billion on both short and long side, and real SWAT players are going to try to get rid of that. ETFs are effectively spot. So I think that's the volatility we're going to see over the coming weeks. But at the very least, we're going to 72 grand. Whether we go to 120 and higher on the next impulsive moves, it's hard to say at this moment. Let's go one step at a time. I was a hell of a lot more confident about my bullish indication back here in October. And again, for good reason. It just made sense. There was a ton of reason to go long basically everything. Now, one of the things I wanted to look at, just as a quick glance at the rest of the markets, there's some really crazy stuff going on out there. I've been tempted to make videos about all the nonsense that's going on because it's just really hard to track. So shout out to Peak Prosperity, one of my favorite data channels. There are very few people that I follow, and Peak Prosperity is one of them. If you haven't followed Chris Martenson, I highly recommend it. I basically don't follow anybody else. There are a few people on Twitter I also follow, but Chris Martenson's videos lately have been fire, absolute fire, and it's super weird. I've made this conjecture before that once you start to recognize that what we're dealing with is criminals, you should just assume what would the criminal be doing. So go check out Chris Martenson's videos. I think he's got some great data and research that's going on there too. But just to finish off with Bitcoin here, our stochastic RSI is totally maxed out on the daily as well. It's likely we're going to want to try to see a reset for that. That could mean a test all the way back down to 60,000. I would like to see a test of at least the EMA bands, and even better, the 200 simple moving average. We could go higher to 72,000 again before we totally reset the stochastic RSI, because the RSI itself is not oversold. But at this moment, it looks like weakness is budding in the market to test these ranges. So for instance, with Fetch here, the trading range that we had broken into after a nice 30% move to the upside turned into distribution over the last 24 hours and aimed to the downside. But that's on the 15-minute. Again, it's when we go out to the daily that we start to see the previous story that I was talking about, that there is a larger range here taking place between the 200 and 314 simple day moving averages. Here we are on the daily for Fetch. The 200 moving average is at about $1.69 and the 300 is at $1.20. Again, I suspect we start to build between that effectively, and we see some type of accumulation here. Now, we're going to have to be patient, though, because these things can switch. They can switch quite quickly. I could be... there's two key scenarios here. I just want to point that out again one more time with Bitcoin. Number one, we go up into the top of the trading range. We hit 72,000. We turn into distribution. We see an LPSY, and we come all the way back down to the demand zone of the $30,000 area, and we wipe out both long and short positions. That's one scenario. The other scenario is that this is actually a reaccumulation range, which I thought it was before, and we see a test here. We move up to the middle of the box, top of the box, and then we move into the finality of the bull market before coming basically all the way back down to where we are. So those are the two scenarios. One of those two things is going to happen. How much higher than $120,000 we go, I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. At that point, once we leave the box, you should be actively taking profits aggressively throughout all the assets, because it's likely the bull market cycle is almost over. We've made this assertion a few times just based off the time scale here. So again, a few other things. SAI here also looks like it was in a small accumulation range, moved into its SOS phase, and it's back up. So could be bullish, but again, we're still under the 200 and 314 day moving averages. Solana almost already back to the top of the box. I thought for sure we would go at least to the middle at around $1.64, but we broke through there, moved all the way to 184. The 6 hour stochastic RSI has already totally reset. Solana is super strong. I don't know who's buying so much Solana, but clearly someone and people are interested in Solana. But the stochastic RSI is reset on the 6 hour. Let's take a look on the daily. On the daily, we are pointing down, so I would be cautious here, effectively. But again, this could just mean if we see a nice reset here of the stochastic RSI on the daily, and we come back down to just the middle of the trading range of where the point of control is effectively, it's going to lead into bullish. Now, ultimately, I had mentioned this before, that because gold is so strong right now, that leading narrative for why gold is so valuable, I think could also be a great leading narrative for Bitcoin just moving into the market. So I'm going to assume reaccumulation at the moment, but just again, remember that we could just as easily hit 72 grand, come back down to 30, wipe out all the leverage on both sides of the trade, which would be fantastic. I would love to see all of the leverage on the downside get wiped out too. I hate that it just like showed a random sparkly thing there, but there we go. So I think the narrative behind gold is also a strong driver to why we would assume bullish market momentum. And on the daily, the stochastic RSI has already reset for the S&P 500 as well. So the S&P 500 has been at huge new highs. So that's important. We haven't reset the RSI yet. MACD's pointed down. So just again, word to the wise, be cautious here. If there are positions you are in that you felt less comfortable about, it's a great time to exit them potentially, or at least take some of the profits that are available. Don't try to over leverage or overweight yourself in any of the asymmetric positions. It's just not worth it, especially when there's so many great opportunities out there. It's easier to be patient and just make entries slowly throughout time. No sense in trying to go all in an asymmetric bet. It just doesn't make any sense. Render at the bottom of its box here too, stuck below, jumped above the simple moving averages and is now closing on the 1 hour. On the 6 hour here, let's take a look. Yeah, we're at the bottom of the trading range. Again, we could see that this turns into a nice move to the upside, at least to the middle of the range here. I suspect that Render ends up looking fairly similar to Solana over the next weeks. Near also in a very similar position on the daily, pretty much right at the bottom of the trading range with a lot of movement, or a lot of potential to go at least to the top of the box. So at the very least, the move to the top of the box is looking secure. So that's going to be somewhere of a test around $5.3. But again, just be cautious here because this could easily come down lower and turn into redistribution again. The market's not giving super clear signals yet. So unless you're just playing long-term investing, dollar cost averaging style of accumulation, the market's not giving signals that I like to play off of, which is just like we were in October, which is you could basically go long everything, even with leverage, and have done well pretty easily. So just be cautious at the very least. And again, if you're like, for instance, if you're in Solana and you've been in Solana since October, like we mentioned, this is a great pace to shave off profits and reduce some of the risk. I'm going to be doing that here for 1 or 2 positions that have jumped basically back to where they were, and just reducing some of the risk because I'm not confident either way at this moment. Just a quick little video update. I will be back again tomorrow with another quick video update so we can just keep an eye on the markets day by day here with you guys. Remember to subscribe, like the videos, leave your thoughts and comments. And that's it. Oh yeah, for the private bear members too, I've got a newsletter coming out for you guys. I'm so sorry. I had been really depressed the last 2 months. I've mentioned this in some of my videos. It's been really difficult. So I have great days. Some days I'm like, I feel awesome today. My life is so great. Like, why am I nothing to complain about? Everything's awesome. And then for some reason, I woke up this morning. I just felt like garbage again. It's wild. It's not, I'm doing my meditations, I'm doing yoga. I never really understood when people felt like, oh, I feel depressed. I'm like, oh, just go do something. But that's really hard sometimes because it just feels like waves of emotion come over you for whatever reason. It's like totally uncontrollable. So anyways, I thought I'd share that with you in case you're going through something too. There's ups, there's downs, there's valleys and peaks to the mountain ranges, and it's just a beautiful journey. So I'm trying not to conflate my depression or like my downsides with anything other than just it's part of the journey. So stay with the Arcane Bear. Thank you guys all for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode. Oh, stupid. Boo, 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 boo.